Good morning. I'm going to say some names and I want you to listen carefully for any that you may recognize. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Mary, and Martha. Sound familiar? How about Paul, Peter, Daniel, David, Ruth, Esther? Well, of course, Miss Angie, you might be thinking those are people in the Bible. I know that. Okay, good. I'm glad you recognize those. Now, how about these names? Clement, Marcus, Justus, Jason, Onesimus? Maybe that one sounds a bit familiar. How about Epaphroditus and Tychicus? Well, with names like that, they have to be in the Bible, right? But do you recognize them? How about these lady names? Do they sound familiar? Joanna, Susanna. How about Phoebe or Priscilla or Damaris, Lydia? You might be thinking, who is that in the Bible? I don't recognize those people from the Bible. Are you sure, Miss Angie, that those are Bible names? Yeah, I'm sure. Oh, they might not be as well known as that first group of people I mentioned, but they are just as important, and I'm going to explain why. The first names I mentioned would be considered the chef in the kitchen. The second group of people I mentioned would be the sous chef. If you haven't listened to last week's devotional, The Sous Chef, you should do that so you will a little better understand what I'm talking about today. This second group of people were the people who helped out some of those famous Bible people who we know readily by name. We may not be quite so familiar with their helpers in the ministry. Did you know, for example, that name Tychicus, what a name, huh? He joined Paul in the ministry in the book of Acts, and he was a faithful helper to Paul. Listen to this verse. All my state shall Tychicus declare unto you, who is a beloved brother and a faithful minister and a fellow servant in the Lord. Colossians 4:7. And did you know that he is mentioned in 5 different books of the New Testament? Well, then why don't we know his name as well as we know Paul's name? Well, Paul says he worked with him in the ministry. Tychicus would have been like his sous chef, the helper to the head chef. Did you know that Joanna and Susanna, those ladies that I mentioned, they provided financially for Jesus' ministry and for his disciples as well? Listen to these verses. And it came to pass afterward that he, Jesus, went throughout every city and village, preaching and showing the glad tidings of the kingdom of God. And the 12 were with him, and certain women which had been healed of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary called Magdalene, out of whom went 7 devils, and Joanna, the wife of Chuza, Herod's steward, and Susanna, and many others, which ministered unto him of their substance. Luke 8, verses 1 through 3. Now notice it says they ministered to Jesus with their substance. What does that mean? Well, substance in this instance means goods or estate or means of living. So we could easily deduct from those verses that they provided Jesus with housing, food, clothing, even money that he needed for his ministry. Did you know that Joanna is only mentioned 2 times in the Bible? And Susanna is only mentioned that 1 time in that verse that I just read. And yet without those 2 ladies, and among others whose names we do not even know, Jesus' ministry could not have been as effective. They were the ones who were providing for the ministry to go forward. They were the helpers in the ministry. They were the sous chefs. We talked in last week's devotional on how important a sous chef is to the kitchen. Without them, the kitchen cannot run smoothly. Well, those people I mentioned were important to God's ministry, and without them, Jesus and his disciples, Paul and all those other leaders we know so well in the Bible, could not have run their ministry as efficiently as they did with them. They may not be as well known as the other Bible characters, but they are just as important. Even though on this side of heaven, we will never even know some of their names, we know that their help with the ministry was of great importance. So, if you are a sous chef and not a head chef, or should I say, if you are a helper in the ministry and not the leader, don't get discouraged when you maybe don't get mentioned for something you did. Maybe you helped the janitor clean and pastor didn't mention your name when he recognized what a great job the janitor did cleaning last week. I know someone who saw you helping. Maybe you washed all the dishes after that delicious meal at church that someone else made, and no one thanked you for helping, only the cook. It's okay. I know someone who saw you washing all those dishes. Maybe you gave an extra big offering to the missionary who came through, but no one knows you did that. Well, I know someone who knows. Maybe you helped that little bus kid at church get a drink from the water fountain. You may not get recognized like the bus captain does, but I know someone who paid attention to that drink of water that you gave. And whosoever shall give to drink unto one of these little ones a cup of cold water, only in the name of a disciple, verily I say unto you, he shall in no wise lose his reward. Matthew 10:42. In short, that verse just simply means that God sees what you are doing, and you will be rewarded for anything that you do for him. You may never be recognized here on earth and receive the rewards that you probably do deserve while you are alive, but never forget that God sees. He will reward you for your work for him. He saw those dishes you washed. He saw those floors you mopped and those windows you cleaned. He saw those hours of music practice you put in late after everyone had left. He saw when you were kind to that rude lady in the store. He saw that meal that you gave to that homeless lady. Love your enemies and do good and lend, hoping for nothing again, and your reward shall be great. Luke 6:35. So if you're not the head chef, it's okay. God sees the work you put in as a helper in the ministry, and he will recognize and reward you for all the work you do for him. So stay faithful and help in the work of the ministry. Be a Joanna or a Susanna. If all you do is put in your tithe, you are helping the ministry. You say, but I'm just the janitor. You are helping the ministry. I only make the coffee. Well, then make the best cup of coffee that you can. You are a helper in the ministry. Head chef, sous chef, no matter which one you are important. So please keep serving.